Hi guys, Type 8 here. Welcome to another tutorial in Renoise. And today I would like to show you guys how you can make this sound. And I'm going to play and jump for a little bit because it's really a funky sound. So I hope you guys enjoy this and like it. And I'm going to show you how you make this sound. So the sound I'm talking about is the type of acid bassline kind of arpeggio that basically so this is really a nice sound, and I'm going to show you guys how you can make it with Renoise. And as you can see, there's a bunch of single cycle waveforms here, and I'm going to show you how you can get just that out of any sample. But first I would like to talk to you guys about how I come up with this idea of getting this type of sound in Renoise. And it all started basically with one of my workflows for making sound design, and it's basically a use Reactor, and some of the synthesizers that I like to use in Reactor, like for instance Carbon, they feature a wavetable oscillator, but unlike Serum, which is every transition across a wavetable is smooth to make it like you can go over it and have like this sound. These wavetable oscillators in Carbon are basically single cycle waveforms, but completely different with one another. So each time you select across them, it's going to sound snappy. So for instance, like this, I have the wavetable oscillator, and right now it sounds like this. Let me put this in another channel and solo it. So each time you change the waveform, it's a completely different waveform, and it sounds snappy. It doesn't sound like smooth or anything like that. And what I like to do with this is to craft a sound, maybe a plug sound with filtering, or maybe a pad sound. And I like to use a MIDI learn function and map this to my MIDI keyboard, so I can change it. I'm recording an automation and render out to a sample, slice it, and use it like one stabs or short loops that I can use to build musical phrases. But sometimes I like to go a bit more deeper and map another controllers to this, like the filter, the resonance, and I record automation for all of these controllers, and I come out with this really long phrase of sounds that I can also use. But another thing that I like to do when using Reactor is to control the synthesizer in the same way, but hook up plug in a sequencer in Reactor, especially the spiral sequencer, and it instantly starts making sound because it's sending MIDI to Carbon. And with the spiral sequencer is pretty abstract, and the only thing you can kind of like you have more control is the pitch correction, where you can select the root of the pitch and the scale you want to use. For instance, each time you change like the sequence is going to change some of the parameters. So I basically go with one of these and I do the same thing. I map values to my MIDI keyboard and start recording all of this into a pattern. I render out and use it as a loop. So the thing is, I was looking for kind of like getting the same thing but with Renoise, only using the sampler and samples to get kind of like this more modular, like randomized ARP that you can get with standard effect commands, or this type of variation is pretty uncommon. So first thing I did was to look up for tools in Renoise.com, and you're going to need two tools basically to make this thing work, which is one of the tools is the zero crossings tools that the Noise made, and the other one is this tool. I don't know who made it, but it's really nice. It enables you to randomize notes based on basically the same that I just showed you, and an scale, and you get to choose if it's going to be a selection, the whole song. So right now when you select notes, you choose, for instance, pentatonic blues, you get to choose the key for the randomize, and if you want to preserve the notes in scale, you also have control of the randomization. For instance, the randomized note is going to be in the third octave and the fourth octave, something like this, and you click randomize, and each time you click it, it will generate random notes on the pattern matrix. So initially, to get the sound, you're just going to need a sample. So in my case, I was rendering samples from different synthesizers, and one of the sounds was this one. If I were to cut like single cycles out of this, the only thing will be this one, which is a cycle basically. It starts here, ends here, but the other ones are, like a bit more like, I don't feel good about using them, so I deleted parts of the sample, and I basically left the ones that I was looking for. And by doing this, when you have snap zero crossing selected, you can go to tools. You can right click and look for slices, and you will bring up the other tool I was talking to you about, the noise tool, the zero crossing. So based on different detection methods, the ones that are here, you can slice the sample based on the zero crossing. It's going to slice out based on the zero crossing feature, and you get to choose the number of slices. There are some other tricks. You need to dive deep in this tool to fully understand it, but I try and error. I chop out using the different detection methods, using the different number of slices, and boom, I chop this thing up, and it will generate a lot of different random wavetables that initially they are going to be mapped, each one of them to the keyboard, each single cycle waveform, but I don't want to do this. I mean, we can use it if we want it, but what I want to do is destructively render each one into a different slice, so I can select all of them and layer. So right now it's going to play all the same at once, but right here in the overlap, in the keysum tab here, you can choose which one of the samples is going to play. So if you put it in cycle, it's going to basically go all over them in an order. See here. But if you choose random, it's going to play a random. And that was just basically what you guys were hearing with the other sound. And so for the first thing I want to do is to kind of correct a bit of this, because some of them are perfectly shaped like this. It's basically away from here, but if you go down, for instance, like this, there's barely an oscillation. And if you were to, of course it produces a tone, but most of the times you don't want to have these types of waveform. So you can go over it by writing something like here, paste it continuously, so put it on cycle to go all over all of them. And what you can do is basically go over each one of them and delete the ones that you don't like. So when you're playing them at random, you don't get these weird overtones or completely dissonant harmonics or anything like that. And basically, when you have this, all of that's remaining is to craft a sound. Like you can start adding filtering, stuff like that, to make the kind of acid like swept like I did with my instrument. Basically select the same samples, the ones that I like to use, and I start adding chain of effects. And like that. And the other thing is just basically adding different effects and messing around with the lines per beat. Try to think of this as a initial pulse of sound that you can write different phrases and render out to samples, and then use individual parts of it to kind of like build different phrase with more sense, more coherent, more in tune with the rest of your song. Because right now we don't have much control over the overall tone of this, because each single cycle is triggering a different note, and we're also randomizing the notes, so we don't have much control over this. But it sounds rhythmic, it sounds good with the drums, so a lot of this music is basically like that, and you need to use your ears to kind of like make the other sounds fit in with this. So it sounds pretty cool to me. So I hope you guys enjoy this, like this, and I'm going to leave this Renoise project file available for download. If you have any additional like idea, because initially I did not want to do this. I basically want to start building something more in the direction of a wavetable synthesizer, but I wasn't able to select on purpose through all of this and basically get all the waveforms like giving the same note. So if you have a lot of waveforms you can throw at it and they are going to be in pitch, and you can use a random function to scroll through all of them. But to basically to be in pitch, like if you want to play something in C or in E, something like that. But because we're getting different tones and overtones and harmonics with each of the cycle, it's pretty hard to control it. And I'm basically starting with this. I think I'm going to add more something different to this technique to make it more manageable, in order to create different sounds, not only these weird acid arpeggial bass lines. But yeah, if you have anything related to this that can be of something that I can put on the tutorial or something like that, please leave a comment. And so hope you guys enjoy this. Leave a comment.